I'm Mackenzie O'Keefe in the CBS in Denver studio. The FDA has added a warning to coronavirus vaccines about the risk of heart inflammation. So to explain these possible side effects in a little more detail is medical editor Dr. Dave Naida. And Dr. Dave, who is most at risk for heart inflammation and how common is the side effect?
When we talk about heart inflammation, really what we're talking about is inflammation of the heart muscle and also the protective sac that is around the heart. It is something that we can see in anyone who has received a COVID vaccine, but we're now noticing more and more that it tends to be younger males that can develop the problem after getting vaccinated. And typically it is a situation where people will get some chest pain as well as possibly some irregular heartbeats. It's typically something that does show up within the first 7 days after the vaccination. It's very important really to know that this is a rare side effect and it is rarely serious. We have noted approximately 1,300 cases after a couple 100 million vaccinations, and there have been no deaths reported from any vaccine-related inflammation of the heart muscle. This is very different than what we were talking about with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, where there was basically blood clots in the brain. The other thing to keep in mind is that this is not unique to vaccination. We see inflammation of the heart tens of thousands of times across the country every year from other reasons. Usually it's related to something like influenza. It can be related to a cold virus and many other viruses. And then finally, I think that really when you take a look at the risk of problems with the heart associated with the vaccine, really is much, much less than the heart problems that are associated from getting COVID. COVID itself is 1,000% more likely to affect and actually cause some heart muscle inflammation and damage. So the vaccine, the benefits at this point seem to far outweigh the risks.
That's interesting. I know too the Delta variant continues to be a variant of concern in Colorado and really across the world. How are the symptoms of this variant different than other strains of COVID?
Gosh, you know, we have referred to the Delta variant as being COVID on steroids. It is something that is much more easily spread, and we believe it causes much more serious illness. And the problem with this is that it really is a great masquerader in many ways. And what I mean by that is that with the typical COVID that you think about, it's cough, it is muscle aches, it is loss of taste and smell. But with the Delta variant, many people wind up presenting or developing early symptoms that include headache, sore throat, and some sniffles. And so it's almost like an early common cold. And why this is a problem is this: as we go onward through time, if we have unvaccinated people who wind up developing symptoms, they may just blow it off as saying, well, I've just got a case of mild cold here. And not only are they at risk for spreading it to others, but they are at risk for serious illness. So the bottom line here is vaccination really is the key in order to help us in the times ahead to protect our population, get back to normal, as well as protect the people who are most at risk.
Absolutely. And sadly, this is our last weekly segment with you, Dr. Dave. In the past 16 months, we've covered all of the highs and the lows of coronavirus. I want to ask you, what do you think is the future of this virus? And do you think we'll all have long-lasting effects from it?
I think at this point, there's still a lot of unknowns. It is really kind of amazing, even week to week, how much we learn about the virus. And I think at this point, you can look at things in three phases. I think if you look at the immediate phase, like what's going on right now and what we can expect as we go through summer, unfortunately, really what we are dealing with is, it's two Americas, it's two Colorados. We have a split between people who are vaccinated and people who are not vaccinated. And so we are going to continue to see disease in people who have not received their vaccination. So that's a big problem. And then we go on to more of an intermediate time frame, meaning as we go into fall and winter, there most likely will be sporadic outbreaks as people wind up spending more time indoors and closer together. We don't know what the situation will be in terms of, will we need a booster? Will there be a pill developed, for example, that will treat COVID actively, because that is something that is under development at this time. And then we take a look at the long term. Where are we going in our lifetimes with this? And I think we have to take a look at COVID as being a forever virus. I think this is always going to be around. It is something that we are going to see really be very present, so to speak, in the world until the remainder of the world winds up getting vaccinated. We believe that won't take place until early 2023. And then I think as we go onward after that, we're going to have COVID sporadically in our lifetimes. You may think of it almost like flu. It is something that may wind up just having sporadic outbreaks here and there. We may wind up needing annual vaccines against it. But I think that we have COVID now, and I think COVID in some way, shape, or form is here to stay.
Interesting. Yeah, still a lot to figure out. We just want to thank you, though, for your expertise, Dr. Dave, for the past year. I know through all of our segments, I've just learned so much from you, so it's been wonderful. And we've all come together to get through this pandemic. So while this is our last segment related to COVID, we'll still check in with you once a month to talk about other important health topics. So looking forward to that.
Thank you.
All right. And then until then, we'll be sure to have all of our Dr. Dave segments on our website, cbsdenver.com.